Something strange has been happening over the last decade, and almost nobody is willing to talk about it honestly. The lie nobody wants to admit. You've been told over and over by influencers, social media accounts, and self-styled financial gurus that the 9-to-5 job is dead, that working for someone else is a trap, that anyone with a real plan should be quitting, building their own business, escaping the corporate world as fast as possible. It's been the dominant message in personal finance for 10 years. Quit your job, build passive income, become an entrepreneur, get rich on your own terms. Almost everyone repeating this message has something to sell you: a course, a coaching program, a mastermind. The advice isn't free because the advice was never really about you. It was about converting you into a customer. And here's what nobody is talking about in 2026. The same entrepreneurs who spent the last decade telling you to quit your job are quietly going back to corporate work by the thousands, right now, burned out, broke, looking for the stability they spent years convincing you to walk away from. Meanwhile, the people who quietly stayed in their jobs, the ones who didn't quit, didn't pivot, didn't follow the social media advice, many of them are now sitting on real wealth that compounded while everyone else was chasing a dream that mostly didn't pan out. Tonight, I'm going to show you why. The financial world has spent a decade telling you the 9-to-5 is a trap. The quietly wealthy know the opposite, and once you see why, you can't unsee it. Most people look at their paycheck and see one number, the amount that lands in their bank account every 2 weeks. What your paycheck is actually worth. That number is the smallest part of what your job is paying you. Watch what happens when you actually count everything. Your employer is paying their share of your taxes, money you'd be paying yourself if you were self-employed. That alone adds roughly 7 to 8% on top of your stated salary. Your employer is probably paying for most of your health insurance. If you bought the same policy on your own, you'd be paying somewhere between $500 and $2,000 a month, depending on your family. That's thousands of dollars a year, paid for you, that you'd be paying yourself. Your employer is matching your retirement contributions. Even a modest match over a working life becomes one of the largest sources of wealth most people ever accumulate. Your employer is providing paid time off, 2 to 4 weeks a year, on full salary. As a self-employed person, every day you don't work is a day you don't earn. Your employer is providing sick leave. If you get the flu for a week, you're still paid. As a freelancer or business owner, you're not. Your employer is providing disability insurance, life insurance, sometimes professional development, sometimes parental leave, sometimes stock options. If you added up the real value of what your job is paying you, not just the salary, but everything attached, you'd find the actual compensation is often 30 to 50% higher than the headline number suggests. The job isn't underpaying you. The full compensation just isn't visible. The financial industry has trained you to undervalue it because they profit when you walk away. There's one piece of the 9-to-5 package that's so powerful, so mathematically lopsided, it deserves its own segment. The employer match is free money. If your employer offers a retirement match, and most do, that match is the highest return investment most people will ever make in their lives, higher than any stock pick, higher than any side hustle, higher than any business they could start. Let me show you how it works. Say you contribute 5% of your salary to your retirement account. Your employer matches that 5%. The moment you put $1 in, your employer puts $1 in alongside it. You just doubled your money, instantly, before the market even moves. That's a 100% return, on day one, guaranteed. There is no other investment in the entire financial world that offers a guaranteed 100% return. None. Not stocks, not real estate, not crypto, not any business venture. Nothing comes close. But it gets better. That doubled money, your contribution plus the match, then gets invested in the market, where it compounds for the next 30 or 40 years. Every dollar you put in becomes several dollars by the time you retire. And the employer's matching dollar compounds right alongside it. The employer match, taken consistently across a career, often becomes the single largest source of wealth a working person accumulates. Not their salary, not their savings, not their side hustle, the match. And people who quit their 9 to 5 to be their own boss walk away from this match permanently. It's not just this year's match they lose. It's every year of match they would have received for the rest of their career. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, often more, quietly evaporating the moment someone follows the advice to quit. The match is why the quietly wealthy stay in their jobs longer than the social media gurus want you to believe. They understand the math. They know what they'd be walking away from. There's something a 9 to 5 quietly gives you that almost nobody talks about, and it's worth more than most people realize. The invisible wealth engine, a stable job with a regular paycheck and a real employer, makes you what banks and lenders call bankable. You can borrow money. You can qualify for a mortgage at favorable rates. You can refinance debt at lower interest rates. You can access credit when you actually need it. This sounds boring. It's not. The ability to access borrowed money at reasonable rates is one of the largest wealth-building tools available to ordinary people, and almost all of it depends on having a documented, predictable income from an employer. A self-employed person making $200,000 a year, with 3 years of tax returns showing it, will still have a harder time getting a mortgage than an employee making $60,000 a year. Banks see self-employed and price the risk higher. Documentation requirements explode. Interest rates rise. Down payment expectations go up. This isn't fair. It's just how the system works. The 9 to 5 employee can buy a house at favorable terms in their early 30s, then watch the property appreciate for 30 years while they pay off the mortgage with cheap, fixed payments. Across a working life, the leverage available to an employed person adds up to enormous wealth-building potential. The self-employed person often has the higher income on paper, but loses access to this leverage. They pay more for everything they finance. They get rejected more often. They have to use their own capital instead of borrowed capital. The math is significantly worse, even when their income is higher. Many of the quietly wealthy understand this. They deliberately maintain employment income, even when they don't need the salary, specifically because it preserves their access to this cheap leverage. The job isn't a cage. The job is a key. Let me show you something, not a theory, a scene. 2 people, 10 years later, 2 friends, both age 28, both earning $60,000 a year, both watching the same financial content online, both convinced they need to escape the 9 to 5 to build real wealth. The first friend, Marcus, takes the advice seriously. He quits his job. He empties his savings to fund a small online business. The first year is exciting. The second year is hard. By the 3rd year, the business is making $30,000, but he's working 60 hours a week, has no health insurance, hasn't contributed to a retirement account in years, and the stress of inconsistent income is wearing him down. He keeps going. Year 4, he pivots. Year 5, he pivots again. Year 6, the business is making $50,000, but after self-employment taxes, health insurance, and the lack of any retirement match, his real take-home is actually lower than his old 9 to 5 salary was. He's exhausted. He's behind on savings. He's been telling himself for 10 years that he's on the verge of breaking through. He hasn't. The second friend, Priya, stays in the 9 to 5. She doesn't follow the advice. Her friends call her unambitious. Some of them mock her for playing it safe. But she does something the influencers never talk about. She captures her full employer match. She contributes to her retirement account every year. She uses her employment income to qualify for a small starter home at 29. She gets promoted twice over the 10 years, growing her salary steadily. She doesn't have an exciting story. Nothing about her life would make a good Instagram post. But 10 years later, at 38, here's what she actually has. A solid retirement account that's been quietly compounding, real equity in a home that's been appreciating, health insurance, a stable, rising income, no business debt, and she sleeps 8 hours a night. Marcus, after 10 years of chasing the dream, has very little to show for it. No retirement account worth speaking of, still renting, no health insurance for years at a time, anxiety about money that doesn't go away. and the strange, painful realization that the influencers he was following 10 years ago have mostly disappeared, many of them quietly back to corporate jobs. Same starting point, same 10 years, same intelligence, same work ethic, completely different outcomes. Most personal finance advice focuses on the income side of the equation. Make more, earn more, grow your way to wealth. The compound advantage of stability. But the quietly wealthy understand something the gurus refuse to admit. Stability of income is often more valuable than the size of the income itself. Here's why. Wealth isn't built by spikes. It's built by consistency. The investor who contributes the same amount every month for 30 years almost always ends up wealthier than the investor with bigger but more sporadic contributions. The math of compounding rewards regularity in a way that's almost magical. A stable 9 to 5 gives you something an entrepreneur rarely has, the ability to make the same financial moves every single month for decades without interruption. You contribute to your retirement account every paycheck. You move money to your investment account on the first of every month. You pay your mortgage on the same date. You auto-invest. Your wealth-building system runs on autopilot because your income runs on autopilot. The entrepreneur, even a successful one, often can't do this. Their income is lumpy. Some months are great. Some months are zero. They can't reliably auto-invest because they can't reliably predict their cash flow. They build wealth in bursts, when they remember, when they have extra cash, when business is good. And bursts compound much worse than consistency. People with the same average annual income but different stability profiles often end up with dramatically different net worths after 30 years. The stable earner, even at a lower average, almost always wins because their wealth-building system never stops running. This is the hidden gift of a job, not just the paycheck, the predictability, the ability to commit to monthly financial actions and never miss them, the structure that lets compounding actually do its work, undisturbed, for decades. Nobody is selling courses about staying in your job and auto-investing for 30 years. There's no money in that advice, so nobody's making content about it. But quietly, it's how most wealthy people actually got there. When the gurus talk about quitting your job, they focus on what you'd gain. Freedom, time, unlimited earning potential. What the 9 to 5 protects you from. What they almost never talk about is what you'd lose, and specifically what you'd lose at the worst possible moment. A job protects you from medical disaster. If you get seriously sick or injured, your job pays for the care, often pays you while you can't work, and protects your family from the kind of medical bills that bankrupt people. Self-employed people, especially in the United States, are one major health event away from financial ruin. This isn't theoretical. It's the single largest cause of personal bankruptcy in the country. A job protects you from economic downturns. When the economy crashes, most employees still have income. Businesses, especially small ones, often disappear entirely. The 2008 recession wiped out hundreds of thousands of small business owners. The pandemic wiped out millions. The employed people felt the squeeze too, but most kept their incomes. Most rode it out. Most rebuilt. A job protects you from your own mistakes. If you have a bad month at a 9 to 5, you still get paid. If you make a wrong decision, your employer absorbs the cost. If a project fails, you're not personally on the hook. As an entrepreneur, every mistake comes out of your bank account. Every bad call hurts. Every wrong turn shows up in your personal finances within weeks. A job protects you from isolation. The stress of running a business alone, with no colleagues, no support system, no shared problem solving, is one of the most underestimated tolls of entrepreneurship. Burnout rates among self-employed people are significantly higher than among employees. A job protects you from yourself. The structure of having to show up, do the work, follow the schedule. For many people, this is a feature, not a bug. Without external structure, many would-be entrepreneurs spend years drifting, distracted, unfocused, wondering why nothing's clicking. The 9 to 5 isn't just a paycheck. It's a comprehensive risk management system, and almost nobody factors that in when they're being told to quit. Here's something almost never talked about, because it contradicts the dream. Why the quietly wealthy keep their jobs. The people who actually have generational wealth, the ones who quietly built it over decades, not the social media performers who claim it, often kept their jobs much longer than the influencers want you to believe. Many of them never quit. They became wealthy through their jobs, not despite them. They climbed slowly. They earned promotions. They saved aggressively. They invested consistently. They used employment income to qualify for borrowing, to buy assets, to fund their lives, while their investments compounded in the background. The doctor with 20 years at the same hospital, the lawyer who stayed at the same firm and became partner, the corporate manager who got 6 promotions in 15 years, the teacher who maxed her pension for 30 years and quietly retired with more wealth than most people imagine teachers can have. The engineer who stayed at the same company through 3 acquisitions and walked away with enough stock to buy his children's homes outright. These people don't show up in social media content. They don't have podcasts. They're not selling courses. They quietly went to work, did the unsexy thing for decades, and ended up wealthier than 90% of the people who tried the entrepreneurial route. Some of them did eventually start businesses. But they did it after they were already financially secure, with substantial savings, with proven skills, with networks built during their employed years. They didn't quit a stable job to chase a dream with nothing in the bank. They built the foundation first. Then, sometimes, they built the business on top of it. The pattern is clear if you know where to look. The wealthy didn't escape the 9-to-5. They used it. And the people most loudly telling you to escape it are often the ones least qualified to give that advice. Let me be honest about this, because this is a Money Rebel channel, and a Money Rebel channel doesn't pretend any one answer is right for everyone. When the 9-to-5 doesn't make sense, a 9-to-5 isn't always the right move. There are situations where leaving employment really is the better financial decision. I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't name them. A 9-to-5 doesn't make sense if your job is actively making you sick. If the stress, the environment, or the work is genuinely harming your physical or mental health, no amount of stability is worth that. The cost of staying in a toxic job often outweighs the financial benefits. A 9-to-5 doesn't make sense if you have a real, proven business opportunity. Not a dream, not a hope, an actual opportunity. Paying clients, validated demand, a clear path to income that matches or exceeds your current job. If you've built something on the side that's already working, eventually leaving employment can be the right move. A 9-to-5 doesn't make sense if you have substantial passive income or savings. If you've already built financial independence through investments, inheritance, or previous success, staying in a job you don't need is a different conversation entirely. A 9-to-5 doesn't make sense if your particular job has poor benefits, poor pay, and no career growth. Not every employer offers a real match, real benefits, real upside. If your specific situation is the worst version of employment, the analysis shifts. A 9-to-5 doesn't make sense for some specific personality types. Some people genuinely thrive in unstructured environments, handle income variability well, and are wired for entrepreneurial work. For them, the structure of a job is genuinely limiting. But here's the key. These are specific situations. They're not the default. Most people being told to quit their jobs don't actually fit any of these criteria. The default answer for most people, in most situations, is that a well-chosen 9-to-5 with good benefits is one of the smartest financial moves available to them. Not the only move, but often the best one. So let me leave you with this, the question you carry with you. The financial industry has spent a decade selling you a story that the 9-to-5 is dead, the entrepreneur is winning, and anyone with real ambition should be quitting their job. The story has sold a lot of courses, a lot of newsletters, a lot of memberships. It has made the people telling it very wealthy. Meanwhile, the reality tells a different story. Burned-out entrepreneurs are quietly heading back to corporate jobs. The dream that was promised has, for most of the people who chased it, not quite arrived. And the unglamorous people who stayed in their jobs, the ones nobody talked about, the ones nobody envied on Instagram, many of them are now quietly wealthy. This doesn't mean every job is good. This doesn't mean nobody should ever start a business. This doesn't mean ambition is a problem. It means the story you've been told has been weighted in one direction for a long time, and the people telling it have something to sell you. The 9 to 5, properly understood, is not a cage. It's a wealth-building tool with a remarkable set of features. A match, a retirement account, health insurance, borrowing power, stability, structure. A risk management system you'd have to pay tens of thousands of dollars a year to replicate as a self-employed person. The quietly wealthy understand this. They built their wealth, in many cases, through their jobs, not despite them. They used the leverage. They captured the match. They let compounding do its work, undisturbed, for decades, and they ended up wealthier than the louder, flashier people who quit. So here's the question I want you to carry with you for the rest of the day. Have you actually run the numbers on your specific situation, with your specific income, with your specific benefits, with your specific employer match, before deciding whether your job is helping you or hurting you? Not based on what social media told you. Not based on what feels exciting. Based on the actual math of what your job is quietly giving you every single month that you'd have to replace if you walked away. Most people have never done this math. They listen to the gurus. They feel the pull of the dream. They make the decision emotionally. But you don't have to be most people. You only have to sit down, run the actual numbers, and ask the honest question. Is your 9 to 5 a trap, or is it the quiet wealth engine that nobody told you it was? The answer might surprise you, especially if the people who've been giving you advice were never running the math on your specific life. The wealthiest move isn't always the most exciting one. Sometimes it's the one nobody's selling. I'm Larry. I'm the Money Rebel. And I'll see you in the next video.